Now, there's an old movie out there where a small deer's mother gets killed, and then he has to make friends with a rabbit. And in that movie, the rabbit says, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. Amanda Nunes is taking on Megan Anderson. Matt, I'm going to talk about the odds quickly because this is not normally how we do fights. Thanks for tuning in. Amanda Nunes opened a minus 1,000 favorite in this fight. She's minus 1162 average on best fight odds. Megan Anderson plus 700 thereabouts. Now, if you look at the Tapology votes, 93% of voters have Nunes to win, and 59% have her to win by knockout. Everybody in the world, except for Megan Anderson's friends, family, and gym, have Amanda Nunes to win. So, I'm going to do a reverse switch, because if I was really confident in a pick, normally I'd talk about Amanda Nunes winning. She's the GOAT. This and that. I will take an opposite stance here. Now, does that have any reflection on my vote? Possibly not. But Megan Anderson comes into this fight, and before she even came into the UFC, this was the boogie woman. This was the featherweight that was going to crack it all. She was going to beat Chris Cyborg. She was going to be, bring this resurgence, or I wouldn't even say resurgence, just a surgence into this featherweight division that the UFC created. So she comes in, and she beat Charmaine Tweet, she beat Peggy Morgan, and she beat Amanda Bell, and she beat Amber Leibrock, that's in Bellator. And she lost to Cindy Dandois 6 years ago, but that happened. She comes into the UFC and fights Holly Holm at 145 pounds. She gets outworked by Holly Holm. She gets out-grappled, that'll happen. She fights Kat Zingano, kicks her in the eyelid, cut her eyelid, and the fight was ended, and it was weird. But a good win. She loses to Felicia Spencer, where she was a big favorite. She gets submitted early. But that'll happen. And then she beats Zara Farron and she beats Norma Dumont. Now, Matt, Norma Dumont has since, she was 4-0 coming into that fight. We have to say that. She's since gone to bantamweight and had a good fight against Ashley Evans Smith. Norma Dumont is better than her record would tell you, and especially at 135 pounds. Zara Farron lost to Megan Anderson, and then she lost to Felicia Spencer, and we haven't seen her since. Megan Anderson and Felicia Spencer are the only good fighters at featherweight not named Amanda Nunes. This division is awful. Megan Anderson, very long, very tall. You're going to hear that all week. This is the biggest fighter that Amanda Nunes has ever fought. Jermaine Durandamy's pretty big, but we'll forget about that. Megan Anderson, biggest fighter that she's ever fought. So, Megan Anderson has the odds stacked against her, the fan vote stacked against her, Tapology stacked against her, Casey Kenney stacked against her, and really, it's a tough ask to beat, well, the best women's fighter ever. She's got a nice right cross. She throws decent kicks, and her clinch game isn't awful.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. That's where I'm going to have to stop you. You can lose to Holly Holm, but here's the thing. You can't lose to Holly Holm by getting out-grappled and out-single-leg takedown.
If you don't have nothing to say, don't say it
at
all.
No. Here's the thing. She made it to a decision with Holly Holm. I wouldn't be able to do that. Good job, Megan. You're fighting one of the greatest fighters of our generation, though, who doesn't have a weakness in their game. And that's
right now.
Oh, my bad.
Used to. Right now, it's pretty good.
Exactly, because there used to be this narrative that, well, Amanda gets tired, and if she fights a good wrestler, how will she do?
Well, Joe Rogan's going to say that.
Well, exactly. I've got the answers for you. Basically, between 2016 and right now, she does amazing, and there's no weakness whatsoever. And if you're really good at striking, well, guess what? She's equally good at grappling. And if you're really good at grappling, well, guess what? She can keep the fight on the feet and absolutely beat the brakes off you. And the wild thing about Amanda Nunes is she's kind of gotten to this point where if you're a specialist, she can beat you at what you specialize in and everything else. Like Felicia Spencer, look how good of a grappler she is. If this fight hits the mat, Nunes is in real danger. Nunes took down Felicia Spencer and ground and pounded her and beat her up on the feet for the entirety of the fight, and there wasn't even a second that I don't think Felicia Spencer won.
But Matt, she didn't finish her.
She did not finish her.
Because Felicia Spencer's tough.
But here's the thing. She probably should have, though. Like, there was an insane amount of damage being dealt out in that fight, and yes, the last two fights from Nunes have not been finishes. I fully expect to finish this Saturday, and I'm not saying anything bad against Megan Anderson. I'm just really going to pump the tires of Amanda Nunes. Her boxing is very, very good. She lands her punches at the end of her shots, which is a phenomenal thing, really, for anyone to do. And you don't see it a lot in MMA. Like, the McGregors of the world do it, the Poiriers, like, the high-level strikers do it. You just don't see it all the time. And the fact that Amanda Nunes, she has such great power, really good long-distance strikes. She has a great kicking game that she's really developed throughout this title run because before that Holly Holm fight, here's the thing. I knew Amanda Nunes is going to win. You were pretty heavily favoring Amanda Nunes as well. But we both fully expected her. Well, she's a good wrestler. Holly Holm isn't. She's got a black belt. You guys can read what we were reading. She head kicked Holly Holm just like Holly Holm did to Ronda Rousey. That's absurd. And the fact that, okay, on the feet, you're constantly in danger against Nunes. On the mat, she has that black belt. She has phenomenal ground and pound. And now that her cardio is 5-round ready no matter what, where she can not only fight for a full 5 rounds, she can keep a very elevated pace throughout those 5 rounds. There's just not a lot of chinks in the armor of Amanda Nunes. And Megan Anderson is a good fighter, and I think she's probably the 3rd best women's featherweight in the UFC right now. I'd probably put her behind Felicia Spencer.
That wasn't nice.
Sorry. She's probably the 3rd best women's featherweight, not the 3rd worst.
In the world or in the UFC?
In the UFC. I definitely think there's some people at Bellator who would give her a run for her money, but that's a conversation for another time. This is a hard win for Megan Anderson, and I do understand that if you want to have a 145 belt, you're going to have to find contenders at a certain point, but they should just get rid of the division. And it's unfortunate to say because it will kind of take away half of what makes Amanda Nunes so special. Amanda's finished everyone at 145. Other than, okay, Jermaine Durandamy, that fight was at 135. The Felicia Spencer fight wasn't even close. She didn't finish her, but it was such a one-sided beatdown. Now you're fighting Megan Anderson, who lost to Felicia Spencer in a very one-sided fight. She herself got out-grappled by Felicia Spencer, and now you're telling me that she's going to be able to beat the greatest women's fighter I've ever seen. It's a tough task.
Everybody's got a puncher's chance. Everybody's also got a hungry heart.
Everybody's got a price, everybody's got to pay, but the $1 million man always gets his way.
Yeah, this is a really tricky one, fans out there. I don't know. I mean, here, Amanda Nunes was supposed to fight Megan Anderson back in December. Nunes pulled out. Why?
She had a kid.
Well, she didn't.
Here's the thing. The only reason that Megan Anderson might win, and I don't even think this will be it, if Amanda Nunes is not motivated at all for this fight.
Seems it.
If being a mom is just so much better than fighting, and I'm sure it probably is, don't get me wrong, but unless that is what her whole focus is on, I don't see how Megan Anderson beats her. The lack of a ground game of Anderson really does hurt her, and it's not the fact that, she has a poor ground game. There's not much one there to begin with, and if Nunes does decide, I'm just going to take her down, I fully expect a submission in the first round.
Matt, going with Amanda Nunes, I think it goes without saying. I just want to take a different approach because it's not fun to be one-sided. So Megan Anderson, good right cross. You saw that against Norma Dumont. Good fight against Zara Farron where she just totally outdid her everywhere. And that height for height and size for size, Zara Farron's a pretty big featherweight. But overall, I mean, Amanda Nunes is that 5-tool player. And again, unless she just doesn't show up, then I think she should be able to get the win. Yeah, I'm going with Amanda Nunes.
I couldn't agree more.
Matt, we're really looking forward to our main event of the evening. We have Jan Blachowicz taking on Israel Adesanya. We're going to be a lot more critical in that one as we were in all 13 other fights that were on this card. So check them out if you haven't. Check out that main event breakdown coming up here shortly. And keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, Matt, with Fight Night Picks.
Let's get into it.